The political landscape of South Africa may be on the verge of a major transformation, as the much-anticipated Madlanga Commission report threatens to expose one of the most significant scandals in the country's democratic history. For months, whispers of corruption, power abuse, and internal betrayal have surrounded the ruling African National Congress, and now the nation is holding its breath. The release of the Commission's findings could shake the ANC to its core, possibly leading to political collapse or a complete reconfiguration of power in South Africa. This story is not just about one report, it's about the survival of the country's oldest liberation movement, and whether it can withstand the storm that's about to hit. To understand the magnitude of what's coming, we need to look at the bigger picture. The ANC has been in power since 1994, when Nelson Mandela led the country into democracy. For 3 decades, it has been the dominant force in South African politics, shaping the country's social and economic direction. But over time, the party that once stood for freedom and equality has become increasingly associated with corruption, factionalism, and internal infighting. From the arms deal scandal in the early 2000s to the state capture saga that brought down former President Jacob Zuma, South Africans have watched a slow erosion of trust in the ANC's leadership. The Madlanga Commission, established to investigate allegations of corruption and misuse of public funds within the party, represents the latest and perhaps most dangerous test of the ANC's credibility. According to early reports and insiders familiar with the investigation, the Commission has uncovered evidence implicating several senior ANC officials, including those in key provincial structures. These individuals are suspected of orchestrating elaborate financial schemes involving government tenders, state contracts, and the diversion of public funds meant for community development. If confirmed, the findings could expose systemic corruption reaching into the heart of the organization. Political analyst Professor William Gamid has warned that the ANC could face an unprecedented collapse in public support. In an interview, he suggested that the party's popularity might drop below 20% in the next national election if the Commission's findings are as damaging as rumored. That kind of decline would mark a turning point in South African history, a sign that the once dominant Liberation Party is losing the moral authority it built during the struggle against apartheid. Gamid cautioned that such a collapse could open the door for opposition coalitions to take power, potentially before the end of President Cyril Ramaphosa's term. Behind closed doors, sources say the mood inside the ANC is tense. Factions are already drawing battle lines, trying to anticipate how the report's release might affect their positions. Some members are reportedly lobbying to delay publication until after the 2026 local elections, fearing that immediate release could devastate the party's performance at the polls. Others believe delaying the truth will only make matters worse, arguing that transparency is the only way to restore public faith. The division reflects a deeper crisis within the movement, a struggle between reformers who want to clean up the party and those who want to protect its entrenched power networks. For President Ramaphosa, the timing could not be worse. He has staked much of his political reputation on fighting corruption and rebuilding public trust after the Zuma years. Yet, despite his promises of renewal, the ANC continues to be dogged by scandals. If the Madlanga Commission confirms widespread wrongdoing, it will deal a devastating blow to his reform agenda and possibly ignite calls for his resignation. Insiders claim that some factions might even use the findings as leverage to push for an internal leadership change before the 2026 elections. The implications extend far beyond the ANC. For ordinary South Africans, the story represents a crisis of faith in the entire political system. The party that once symbolized hope for equality and justice now faces accusations of greed and betrayal. Voter turnout has been steadily declining, and frustration with corruption and unemployment has created fertile ground for populist movements and new political alliances. If the ANC's credibility collapses, it could trigger the most significant realignment in South African politics since the dawn of democracy. Professor Gamid and other analysts believe that the results of the Madlanga Commission could mark the beginning of a post-ANC era. Opposition parties such as the Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters, and newer formations like Rise Mzansi are already positioning themselves to take advantage of potential fallout. Coalition politics, once considered unthinkable at a national level, could become the new normal. The prospect of an ANC-led government losing control is no longer an abstract possibility, it's a growing likelihood. Meanwhile, within the corridors of power, anxiety is spreading. Senior party officials are said to be preparing legal teams, anticipating potential criminal prosecutions or disciplinary action. The fear is not only about reputational damage but also about possible arrests. Reports suggest that the Commission has examined financial records, offshore accounts, and confidential communications that could expose years of illicit activity. For many within the party, survival may now depend on who is named in the final report and who isn't. Experts warn that the political consequences could be severe. A sharp decline in public confidence could lead to demands for early elections, mass protests, or even calls for a caretaker government to oversee reforms. South Africa's democratic institutions, already strained by years of corruption and mismanagement, could face further instability. International observers are also watching closely, as South Africa's credibility in the region and on the global stage could be affected by how the government handles the fallout. The ANC's legacy is on the line. For millions of South Africans who grew up under its rule, the idea of a future without the ANC in power once seemed unimaginable. But history shows that even the most powerful political movements can crumble when they lose touch with the people they claim to serve. Whether the Madlanga Commission becomes the final nail in the coffin or the catalyst for renewal will depend on how the party responds in the weeks ahead. As the countdown to the report's release continues, South Africa stands at a crossroads. The truth may bring accountability, but it could also unleash chaos. Either way, the country will not emerge unchanged. If the findings confirm what many suspect, this moment could redefine not just the ANC's future but the entire shape of South African democracy for generations to come. So, what do you think lies ahead for the ANC and for South Africa as a whole? Could this be the beginning of a new political era, or will the party once again find a way to survive the storm? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Mzansi Lens, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the stories shaping South Africa's political future. Your voice matters, and your perspective helps us uncover the truth behind the headlines. Almost equals 7,580 characters, approximately 9 to 10 minutes when read slowly by AI.